I switched from dealing with a lot of problems at work to working at a candy store with Ben. It was a big change, but I liked it. Before, I was always busy fixing things at my job, but now I was surrounded by sweet treats. Ben's family owned the store, and soon I was helping with the money stuff. Our shop was doing well, and one Monday, Ben greeted me with a smile. Even though there was some tension, his smile made me happy. I mentioned that our sales were up because people loved the new chocolate we had. But Ben seemed a bit bothered. He joked about his mom still thinking he's the best at running the candy store. Then his mom, Linda, came in. She praised Ben but made a little jab at me. I tried to stay calm and just said good morning. Linda hinted that I should leave the business stuff to the experts and focus on helping Ben with the real work. Before things could get too tense, Ben defended me and said we were doing great. Because she's good at business, he said, slipping an arm around me to show he had my back. Linda didn't seem convinced, but she left us alone after saying as long as Ben was happy. That's what mattered. Ben apologized quietly for his mom's behavior. I tried to brush it off, saying it didn't bother me. We focused on running the shop together. Sugar Haven wasn't just a candy store anymore. It was our special place. But then things started to go wrong. Deliveries came more often, but they weren't candy. They were expensive things that made me worry about our finances. One evening, I found Ben opening a fancy new phone he'd ordered. I asked him if it was really necessary, considering other things we needed for the shop. But he shrugged it off, saying we deserved nice things too. It wasn't just the phone. Linda was also spending a lot, showing off new clothes all the time as if the store was her own personal runway. Look at this dress, Anna, isn't it lovely? Linda twirled around in a floral dress that seemed way too expensive for our budget. It's nice, I said, trying to sound indifferent. But shouldn't we save up to fix the sign outside? Linda brushed off my concern, patting Ben's cheek. Nonsense, the store is doing great, Benjamin, tell her. Ben, who was only half paying attention, agreed with his mom. Yeah, we're doing fine, Anna, don't worry. But worrying was exactly what I did. Every time I checked our finances, I saw the numbers didn't add up. Doing great wasn't the term I'd use when our profits were being eaten up by personal spending. I'm just saying we should be cautious. I brought it up again later that week as we looked at our finances. Maybe we should set a budget for personal expenses. Ben looked at me like I'd suggested something absurd. A budget? Come on, Anna, we're not that bad, and it's not like you to be stingy. That word stung. I wasn't being stingy. I was being sensible. It's not about being stingy, Ben. It's about being smart. We have to think about the future of Sugar Haven. He didn't seem to hear me, already scrolling through a website for another purchase. You worry too much, he said, half distracted. It'll all work out. Things took a turn when Linda decided to bring in extra help. It was a Tuesday, our inventory day, and I was knee-deep in organizing candy jars when she walked in with a girl who couldn't have been older than 20. Anna, this is Tessa, Linda announced proudly. Tessa, dear, this is Anna, my son's assistant. I straightened up, wiping my hands on my apron. Nice to meet you, Tessa, but I'm actually the co-manager here. Tessa smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I've heard a lot about you. I'm really excited to be part of the team. I glanced at Linda, whose smug look told me she hadn't consulted Ben about this new hire. What exactly will Tessa be assisting with? I asked, trying to keep my tone friendly. Oh, she's going to help out with the business side of things. You can only do so much after all, Linda said, dismissing my concerns with a glance at my inventory list. I nodded, still confused. All right, well, we have a system here, so I'll have to bring her up to speed. It didn't take long for me to realize that Tessa's idea of helping out involved more hovering than actual work, and when I saw the salary Linda had set for her, I was shocked. Ben, can we talk? I cornered him later that day in the office. Sure, what's up? He asked, not looking up from his computer. It's about Tessa. Her salary is? It's more than what we can afford for the role she's in. Ben finally looked up, his brow furrowing. Mom said it was fine. She thinks Tessa's going to bring a lot to the table. I sighed, feeling like I was talking to a wall. But we agreed to discuss new hires together, especially when it comes to how much we're paying them. He shrugged, that annoyingly dismissive gesture becoming more frequent. What's done is done. Mom has a good feeling about her. I had to bite back a retort. Good feelings didn't balance books. I left the office feeling like I was the only one seeing the red flags, while Ben and his mother were content to parade around with blindfolds on. I've always been someone who double checks, maybe even triple checks, especially when it comes to numbers. So when I found an envelope stuffed in the back of a filing cabinet while looking for a misplaced invoice, my first thought was that it was just another forgotten bill. But as I went through the papers, my heart started racing. Not from excitement, but from cold dread. It was a loan document with Sugar Haven listed as collateral, and the amount was far more than reasonable for our small shop. Ben, I said, walking into his cluttered office with the papers in hand. What is this? He glanced up, and I saw guilt flicker in his eyes, the first sign of it I'd seen in months. Oh, that? It's nothing. Just a small loan I took out to cover, store improvements. Store improvements? I echoed, incredulous. This amount could renovate the store 5 times over. What did you really use it for? There was a pause, and I could tell he was choosing his words carefully. Okay, look, he started. I might have used some of it for the house. The one I've been working on for us. For us, I repeated sharply, disbelief in my voice. Or for your gadgets and whatever else you've been blowing money on. He stood up, his chair scraping back, a sound that grated on my patience. It's not like that, Anna. You don't understand. This is all going to pay off in the end. No, Ben, taking out a loan against the store without telling me, that's what I don't understand. How could you be so reckless? Before he could answer, Linda bustled in, her nose wrinkling as she saw the papers in my hand. What's all this about? She demanded. Ben tried to explain, but I cut him off, thrusting the loan papers at her. Did you know about this? She barely glanced at the documents before waving them off. Of course I did. Ben's just doing what's necessary for our future. And who are you to question him? You're just the help after all. The words stung, but they also ignited something inside me. Just the help? I said, my voice low but firm. I've been keeping the store afloat while you two have been treating it like your personal bank account. What's ungrateful is not recognizing the hard work someone's been putting into this business. What's foolish is risking everything for a house that we don't even need. I waited for them to say something, to defend themselves, but all they did was stare at me, caught in the act. I left the room then, the documents clutched in my hand like a verdict yet to be delivered. The kitchen table was never meant for business meetings, but that day it was surrounded by solemn faces, as if we were about to discuss matters of state instead of the confectionery. Ben cleared his throat, his eyes not quite meeting mine. We need to talk about the store's future. I sat down, folding my hands on the table. We already did that when I found the loan documents, I said firmly. Linda huffed from across the table, her arms crossed. We need to be realistic, Anna. The store isn't pulling in enough to cover the debts. We have to find money somewhere. There it was, the we that really meant me. I kept my voice steady. What do you suggest? Her eyes gleamed with a cold calculation. You have that inheritance from your parents. It could cover the debts and get the store back on its feet. I felt like I was listening to a stranger, not the woman whose son I had married. You want me to use my parents' money? The money they left for me, for my future? Ben finally spoke up. It's not like you're doing anything else with it. That money was meant for me, for my security, I said, disbelief clear in my voice. And what about our security? Linda shot back. You're part of this family now, aren't you? I looked between them, my heart sinking. I am, but it seems you only remember that when you need something from me. Ben shifted uncomfortably. It's not like that, but we're drowning here, Anna. So you expect me to just hand over my future, just like that? I asked. Linda leaned forward. If you care about this family, yes. I thought of the sacrifices I had made for the store, the long hours, the sleepless nights. If I do this, if I invest my inheritance, I want a third of the store. I want to be an official co-owner. The room fell silent. Then Linda laughed, a harsh sound that bounced off the walls. You, a co-owner. Don't be ridiculous. You're not business material. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. Then you find another way to cover your debts, because my inheritance is not your emergency fund. Ben's face was unreadable, but Linda's was red with anger. You'd let this family business go under? I've tried to save it, I said, my voice quiet but firm. But I won't set myself on fire to keep you warm. I wasn't one for late-night visits to the shop, but something in my gut told me to go to Sugar Haven that evening. The place was dark, as expected, but the faint glow of a light from the back office wasn't. I pushed the door open, the familiar tinkle of the bell sounding almost ominous in the silence. The sweet scent of confectionery, which usually comforted me, now felt heavy, loaded with the scent of betrayal. As I walked towards the back, the murmurs from the office grew clearer, and then I saw them, through the partly open door. Ben, with his arms around the new assistant Tessa, who giggled at something he whispered in her ear. I pushed the door open fully, and they sprang apart, their expressions turning from shock to guilt within seconds. Anna, Ben stammered, straightening his shirt. What are you? It's not what it looks like. I crossed my arms, feeling a cold calm settle over me. Really? Because it looks like I just caught my husband with his arms around another woman. Tessa was smoothing her hair back, looking anywhere but at me. We were just going over inventory at midnight with the inventory in your arms, I said, my tone dry. Ben's eyes were pleading now. Anna, please, you're blowing this out of proportion. I laughed, short and humorless. Am I? Because from where I'm standing, it looks pretty clear to me. He took a step towards me, and I held up a hand. Save it, Ben. I don't know what's worse, the cheating or the pathetic lies. Tessa finally spoke up, her voice small. I'm sorry, Anna. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I looked at her, really looked at her, young, naive, and caught in the web of a man who couldn't take responsibility for his actions. You should be. And you should also be looking for another job. Ben's protest was immediate. You can't fire her for this. I turned to him, my resolve steeling. I can, and I will. And I'll be looking for a good lawyer in the morning. His face paled. Anna, please, let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I said, cutting him off. You've made your choices. Now you get to live with them. I didn't wait for his response. I walked out of there with my head held high, the sound of Ben calling after me fading into the background. The morning after I caught Ben was bright, a stark contrast to the mood in our home. I'd spent the night at my own place, the one I kept as a rental property. As I sat at the kitchen table, my phone buzzed with a message from Ben. I considered not even reading it. But curiosity got the better of me. It was a photo of a bank letter addressed to Ben, with the words final notice, immediate repayment required, standing out beneath it. He typed a message. We need to talk. This is serious. I typed back a simple, on my way, and got ready to face the music. When I arrived at the confectionery, Ben and Linda were already there, pacing like caged animals. Linda spotted me first, and her expression soured. Decided to show up, did you? She snapped as I walked in. I nodded, holding her gaze. You wanted to talk. Ben held out the letter to me. The bank's coming down hard. We could lose everything. I scanned the letter, the numbers not surprising me but still making my stomach turn. So what's your plan? Linda's plan was apparently to glare daggers at me. We wouldn't be in this mess if you just helped us when we asked. Ignoring her, I addressed Ben. What are you going to do? He ran a hand through his hair, looking defeated. I thought you could pay it off with your inheritance. My laugh was bitter. And I told you, I'm not doing that without a stake in the business. Linda stepped forward. You're being unreasonable, Anna. This is a family business. I met her challenge with a calm I didn't feel. And where was this family when your son was spending money we don't have and hiring his friends for fun? Ben started to say something but stopped, his eyes dropping to the floor. You don't get to play the family card. Only when it suits you, I continued. We'll figure something else out, then, Ben muttered. You'll have to, I agreed. Then Linda did something unexpected. She smiled, but it wasn't pleasant. Fine, but if you're not going to help, then you're out. We'll manage without you. You're fired. I stared at her, letting the silence stretch out before I matched her smile with my own. Okay, their surprise was almost comical. Just like that? Ben asked, his voice incredulous. Just like that, I confirmed. But I want you to know, I took photos of you and Tessa. I have records of all the money you've wasted. If you think you can fire me and sweep all this under the rug, you're wrong. Linda's smile vanished. You wouldn't dare. Oh, but I would. And when I leave, I'm taking all my hard work with me. You can explain to the bank why the business is about to tank without the person who was actually running it. Months had passed since I last set foot in Sugar Haven, and life had taken on a new kind of normal. The crisp sound of papers, the hum of focused conversations, and the sight of a crisis managed and resolved, these had replaced the scent of sugar and spice. I sat in my new office, a stark contrast to the confectioner's back room. When my phone rang, I glanced at the caller ID. It was Claire, a former employee at the shop, and the only one I still talked to. Hey, Claire, what's up? I greeted with a hint of caution. News about Sugar Haven always carried a tinge of the past. You haven't heard. Claire's voice was a mix of pity and discomfort. The shop, they closed down last week. The bank foreclosed on them, and the house too. I leaned back in my chair, a weight lifting off my shoulders that I hadn't realized was there. I see, and Ben and his mother. There was a pause. They're not doing great. Rumor has it they've moved in with his aunt. No one's seen them much. I sighed, not quite sure how to feel. Thanks for letting me know, Claire. She hesitated before adding, Anna, everyone knows you were the heart of that place. It was never the same after you left. A small, sad smile touched my lips. I appreciate you saying that. How about you? Found a new job yet? Yeah, I'm working at a bakery downtown. It's not Sugar Haven, but it's a start. That's great to hear. You always had a talent for baking. I'm sure you'll do well there. We chatted for a few more minutes before saying goodbye. I hummed up and looked out the window at the bustling street below. There was a knock at my door, and my assistant peeked in. Your 3 o'clock is here, Anna. Thanks. Send them in? I responded, shaking off the remnants of nostalgia. The clients came in, a husband and wife team, looking worried about their own business. I stood to greet them, ready to dive into another challenge. We've heard great things about you, Anna, the wife said as we sat down. They say you're the best crisis manager in town. I smiled, the title sitting comfortably with me. I'll do my best to live up to that reputation. Now, tell me about your business, and let's see how we can turn things around. As they spoke, I listened, already forming strategies in my mind. This was my world now, where every problem had a solution, and every crisis was an opportunity. The meeting stretched on, the client's initial anxiety giving way to hopeful smiles as we discussed possibilities. They left with a renewed sense of purpose, and I turned back to my desk, my heart lighter than it had been in a long time. In the end, I realized that sometimes the sweetest outcomes come after the most bitter trials, and the future was mine to create, one careful step at a time.